Okay, let's do 3 Oms and Sahanavatu. Sahanavavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu mavid vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Stotram. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshu militam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sthabaram Jangamam Vyaptam, Yatkinchis Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darsitam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam vyapiyat sarvam trailokyam sacharacharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva vidya dravidam tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Tvameva sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing Atmabodha. Last time we stopped at Sloka 40. Let's chant the Sloka. Rupa varnadhikam sarvam Rupavarnadhikam sarvam vihaya paramarthavitu paripurna chidananda swarupena vatishthate. Together. Rupavarnadhikam sarvam vihaya paramarthavitu paripurna chidananda swarupena vatishthate. So Shankaracharya trying to say we had to meditate sitting on one place, vivikta desha asinaha, without any attachments, viraga, vijitendriyaha, having conquered our indriya, sense organs, bhavayet ekam atmanam. One has to meditate on single-pointedly on that self or oneness alone, and that is also is called bhakti. In the Vivekachudamani, it says, moksha sadhana samargyam bhaktireva gariyasi. Bhakti is the supreme, and swaswarupa anusandhanam bhaktirichabhidiyate. So what is that bhakti? So is contemplation on one's own self. So bhavayet ekam atmanam tam anantam ananyadhihi. Without any thought other than the self, one has to contemplate on the self that is anantam, that is infinite. And also has to see Atmaniyeva Akilam Drusyam. This is in the sloka 39. Atmaniyeva Akilam Drusyam pravilapya dhiya sudhihi bhavayet ekam atmanam nirmala akasha vatsada. So Atmaniyeva Akilam Drusyam, everything that I see in this world is nothing but self alone, or in the self alone, or by the self alone. And pravilapya, so discarding whatever seen as superficial entities as the nama rupa and recognizing the essence of it is what is involved in pravilapanam. And using dhiya, using the buddhi, by sudhihi, those who are contemplative seekers, bhavayet ekam atmanam, one has to contemplate on oneness of the Atma. Nirmala akashavat sada, that which is nirmalam akashavat, which is without any impurities, all pervading and clean, and that is eternally pure, that is present, and that Atma and has to be contemplated. Where Rupa Varnadikam Sarvam Vihaya Paramartha Vitu Paripurna Chidananda Swarupena Vatisthate. So those who are contemplating on that, recognizing that all the Rupa Varna, Sabdasparsa Rupa Varnadi, Adhikam, every Sarvam, everything else is only superficial entities, so discarding them, recognizing the Paramartham, the absolute substratum that is pervading everywhere, that is the supreme, and knowing that they will Paripurna Chidanandaha Swarupena, that is my nature is Param Purnam and Chidananda Swarupam, and they get established on that. That's where we stopped last time. We'll start with this sloka 41. Jnatrugnana bhedaha Jnatrugnana bhedaha Parenatmani vidyate Chidanandaika rupatvad Dipyati swayame together. Jnatrugnana bhedaha parenatmani vidyate chidanandaika rupatvad dipyati swayame Jnatrugnana bhedaha. So here we have the knower, Jnatruhu, Jnanam, the knowledge, Jneyam, object of knowledge. So any knowledge involves, or any experience involves Triputi. That means there are three factors that come into picture. Says in the experience, there is an experiencer, experienced, and experiencing. The knower and a known, and the knowledge itself, or the pramana. So in every aspect there is always three aspects that are called Triputi or triad, and there is therefore the knower is different from a known, and knower and known are different from knowing principle. So there is always a bedham, a differences exist in this Triputi, and that's why there are three triads are there, but they are only superficial entity, and all are the superficialities are nothing to do with Atma. What is that? Pare na Atmani vidyate. So, Pare na Atmani vidyate. They are only superficial entities, but what is the substratum is the Atma, the self, that the pure existence that I am. And having known that, one discards all this because they are not in the essence of Atma. They are only superficial entities. And having recognized the essence that pervades the Jnatrugnana Jneyam, the knower and the knowledge and the object of knowledge, what is there is pure consciousness and the existent consciousness that happens in the every knowledge. And Pare Atmani Vidyate. So it's not on the original consciousness itself. They are only Nama Rupa only. Consciousness is Chidananda Eka Rupatvam. Chidananda Eka Rupatvam. It is Chit Chit Anandam Ekam and Ekameva Advitiyam, that which is of the nature of consciousness and limitless, and therefore that is Ekarupam, it is its Swarupam, it is its intrinsic nature, and it shines by itself, Deepyate Swayamevahi, by itself, eva alone. So essentially, in every knowledge, in every experience, we are seeing these three: the knower, known, and the knowledge, or the seer, seen, and the knowledge of seeing, or experiencer, experienced, and experiencing. Therefore, in all our transactions, vyavahara, so all these three will be there all the time. So, using the same three, I had to recognize that the presence of the existence and consciousness that is pervades the knower, known, and the knowledge, experiencer, experience, and the experiencing. So how is this done? Because as we discussed before, in the epistemologically, the knowledge takes place when the senses perceive an object and forms a vritti in the mind, and the vritti has to be revealed by the reflected consciousness, light of consciousness that falls, and that is, I am the subject, I am the light of consciousness, and I illumine this vritti that is formed, and the vritti, as contents of the vritti, is nothing but the object outside, or jnaya vastu, that which is to be known. And therefore, all that process involves consciousness subject and illumining and consciousness joining with the existence of the object for me to be conscious of the existence of the object. And that understanding involves there is nothing but consciousness only that I am seeing in terms of any seer seeing principle. The same way, jnatru, jnana, jnaya bhedaha, knower, knowledge, and objective knowledge involves the knowing principle that I am, and whatever is known or unknown is known to me. So I don't know certain things that I know. I know certain things that I know. But I am the knowing principle beyond the known and the unknown. And therefore, known and the unknowns are essentially superficial. And I am essentially Atma. And in me or on me, there is none of the known and the unknown. And I am pure Chit Ananda Eka Rupatvam. My nature is pure consciousness that is all pervading, because it's Ekam, it is infinite, and it is Anandam, it is limitless, and therefore that is Aham Brahmasmi, is my nature. And it is Deepyate, it shines by itself. I don't need another light to see. So there is no need for illuminating the light for me to see. Therefore, light itself is self-shining. And this is of the nature of consciousness. Therefore, it shines swayameva, by itself alone. And therefore, it is self-revealing also. And that is my nature. Says Shankara. So this has to be contemplated. So here the Shankara is emphasizing the contemplation on the nature of the Atma, and what is the nature of the Atma is being specified in each sloka. Now we'll do sloka 42. Evam atmaranau dhyana, evam atmaranau dhyana, madhane satatam kruti, mathane satatam kruti, udita vagatir jwala, udita vagatir jwala, sarvajnanindhanam dahet, sarvajnanindhanam dahet. Look at that. Evam atmaranau dhyana, mathane satatam kruti, udita vagatir jwala, sarvajnanindhanam dahet. Evam atma aranau dhyana madhane satatam kruti. So here, what you had to do in order to recognize myself, that I am Satchidananda Swarupam and that is my nature, has to be recognized through process of meditation. It's specified. Evam. In this way, by contemplating on that, in the previously, Bhavayed Ekam Atmanam. That's one has to contemplate on that alone. That evam, in this way, Atmanam, on that Atma. This is Aranau. Aranau is a wooden cup, and they used to make a fire in olden days in the yajna, where they have a cup and there is a stick, they keep churning it, and due to the friction, the heat generated, and they will put a small cotton, and the heat is sufficient to start fire in the cotton, which slowly they develop into a big fire, and that fire is used for the homam and the agnihotram, and that's how the agni is generated in the forest during the ritual forest. Ritualistic analysis or ritualistic karma. That's how Arunau is the cup, wooden cup, and that has to be done. Heat has to be generated by constantly applying a friction, and in the same way, analogy is used here. Says Dhyanam Mathani means churning in the mind. So there it was a churning to create the fire, but here Dhyana Mathanam is a churning through the meditation. Satatam is constantly on if you do it, Krute, once if one has done that constant meditation by continuously contemplating on that absolute truth, that Atma, then Udita Avagati Jwala, a fire of knowledge. Say Avagati Jwala, a fire of knowledge Uditam. It slowly rises, just as when I am doing the churning in the Aruni, when I am doing churning, the heat slowly generates and the fire slowly comes out. In the same way, the knowledge, if you keep on contemplating on it, so contemplation is an action, a mental action, dhyanam, and mathanam is constant contemplation, satatam, continuously, kruti. If one is done, then udita avagati jwala. So there is the knowledge slowly arises in the mind. And by that knowledge, sarva ajnanendhanam dahed, all ignorance, dhanam is the fire, the fuel is, what is the fuel that is burnt? Is ajnanam. Ajnanam is the ignorance, sarva ajnanam, all ignorances or dahed is burned out. So this knowledge is absolute knowledge. In all other knowledge, you can say knowledges or knowledge, only we get ajnanam only. So one can be PhD in so many subjects, but that does not give the absolute knowledge. So what is the absolute knowledge? And other things is only relative knowledge. The relative knowledge makes me more and more ignorant, because the more I know, the more I discover there are a lot more things I need to know. So that is true with all objective knowledge. I am becoming a super specialist of narrower and narrower fields. But here is the jnanam, here is the knowledge, knowing which I will know everything. Eka vijnanena sarva vijnanam bhavati. And that's what is the scriptural statement of Chandogya Sadvidya. It says, Eka Vijnanam. By knowing one, you will know everything. So how do you know everything? If I know the essence of it, then I know the other things. Only Nama Rupa is different. If I know gold, then I know all, in essence, the ornaments, the essence of all golden ornaments I know. The names and forms may be different, but in essence, it's only gold. So in the same way, Sarva Ajnana Indhanam Dahed, all ignorance related to everything goes away by this knowledge, because this is the absolute knowledge. And this is what, in fact, in the one of the Upanishad, the student resource said, Kasmin no bhago vijñate sarvamidam vijñatam bhavati. O Lord, please teach me that knowledge by knowing which I know everything. And that is essentially Sarvajnanam, Sarvajnaha, that is Ishvara. So Sarva Ajnana Indhanam Dahed. it can be burned. All the ignorance about is being eliminated. This analogy of Aruna is being used in the Kaivalya Upanishad. Churning of the knowledge analogy is discussed in the Kaivalya Upanishad. So it implies that I need to do constant contemplation on the truth. That means Ravana Mananam, after listening to the scriptures and having no doubts about it by reflecting on it. And then once I have understood, I have to contemplate on it, which is Nididhyasanam. And that's being specified here. Okay, Sloka 43. Arunineva bodhena purvasantamasi hruti tata avirbhavedatma swayamivam sumaniva. Together. Aruneneva bodhena purvasantamasi hruti tata avirbhavedatma swayamivam sumaniva. So Aruneneva bodhena purvam santamasi hruti. So Aruna is the red color, Aruna, and Aruna is the charioteer of the sun. So he's actually brother of Garuda, and he doesn't have feet, and he's the charioteer of the sun. So the sun, when the sun rises, the first color that you see is, because he's in the driver's seat, you see the Aruna first before you see the sun. It is a pictorial representation, and Aruna is the red color. As you see in the sky, the first you see the red sun coming, and slowly the other colors. And the red color in the Vibgaya is the one that burns much more comparatively. Therefore, you see the red color first before you see other colors. And therefore, Aruna eva bodhena. So, before the sunrise itself, we see the Aruna there. And in the same way, as the knowledge is coming, and before complete knowledge, even the Aruna, that is the glimpses of the coming of the sun, eliminates all the darkness, because even before the dawn, before the sunrise, you start seeing everything. The darkness is slowly disappearing. And that analogy is used here. So Aruneneva bodhena, by this knowledge of this Vedanta knowledge, purva sam tamasi hruti, that purvam sam tamasi, the before, what was there before was the ignorance, and that ignorance is universal ignorance, the total ignorance about what? About my own self, and that includes everything, because the self that I am is the self everything, and therefore it is complete ignorance or primordial ignorance, and that is santamase hruti. It gets destroyed by rising of the knowledge, and that is being used as an analogy here. Tata avirbhavet atma. So when the knowledge slowly rises in the mind, means it gets revealed, not that knowledge is coming and darkness is going. When the darkness is going, only with the knowledge of as I understand more and more, it destroys the ignorance about myself and the world. And tata avirbhavet atma. So that avirbhavet, from that is the rise of the Atma, consciousness, and Swayam Eva Amsumaneva, by itself, Swayam Eva, says the rising of the sun automatically occurs once the ignorance is removed. That is an analogy here. So there is nothing else to do, as only I have to remove the ignorance by proper means. Here ignorance can only be removed through the proper means. In the earlier sloka, we have analyzed where the clouds are covering the sun, and clouds are known only because of the sun only. I can see the clouds only because of the sun, and because of the clouds I cannot see the sun. And it's a strange situation. Clouds come because of the sun, and clouds are covering the sun, and those clouds that are covering the sun, I cannot see the sun because of that, but I can see the clouds only in the sunlight only. And therefore this clouds, when I remove by the wind, or the winds are, when the winds remove with the clouds are removed by the wind, the self-shining sun is revealing itself. In that way, Swayam Eva Ansumaneva, like the sun rising, it is self-revealing. I don't need to do anything else because the sun is there. So I don't say, please bring a torchlight so that I can see the sun. I don't need a torchlight. I don't need any other means to know that there is a sun, because sun is Swayam Jyotihi. He shines by himself, self-luminous entity, and that is Swayameva Amsumaneva. Says Tataha Avirbhaved Atma. That Atma is Avirbhaved. It rises. Getting any disturbance? Okay. So here there is a beautiful example is, when there is a pitch dark room, I say I cannot see anything. So what do I need? I need a torchlight. So when I put the torchlight on it and it shines by its, when I put the torchlight, then I can see the objects there. So because I need a light to illuminate the inert objects, because they are not self-luminous. And suppose there is a pot there and I need a torch to see the pot, but when I lift the pot, I see there is a candle burning there, and the candle is already lighted. Now I don't need put a torchlight to see the candlelight. Candlelight is self-shining, so it reveals itself once I remove the pot. But removing a pot is an action, and putting a torchlight to see that there is a pot is also an action. So action is required only to remove obstacles that are covering the light. So once I remove the pot, that which is being covered, the candle that is burning, that is all the time there, but I could not see the candle because the pot was covering it. So once I remove the pot, then what should I do? There is nothing else to do. The candle is self-revealing because it is lighted. In the same way, once I remove the obstacles, obstacle is ajnanam, ignorance. Ignorance is covering, so ignorance has to be removed. How do I uncover the ignorance? What should I do in order to remove the ignorance? All I have to do is remove the ignorance. Can only be done by a knowledge or a process of knowledge. So I have to know, and that which removes the ignorance, that's called a pramana. So only through pramana I can remove the ignorance, and once the ignorance removed, the self-shining Atma becomes self-revealing. So Swayameva Amsumaneva, just as the sun is self-revealing as it is shining when there are no obstacles obstructing the vision of the sun. So Tata Avirbhaved Atma. It is as though it is raising. Not that it is raising, it was there all the time, but as though means the ignorance is slowly getting dispelled as I keep churning on the Atma. Atma tu satatam prapto, Atma tu satatam prapto, Avyapraptavad avidyaya, Avyapraptavad avidyaya, Tannase praptavad bhati, Tannase praptavad bhati, Swakantha bharanam yatha, Swakantha bharanam yatha, Atma tu satatam prapto, Aprapyapta vada vidyaya, Tannase praptavad bhati, Swakantha bharanam yatha. Atma tu satatam praptaha. So, that which is Atma is indeed Satatam Praptaha is ever present. Atma is ever present because there is never a time I was not there. So I am there all the time. Even though I am there all the time, api apraptavatu, yet it is not recognized or realized due to avidjaya, due to ignorance. Even though I am there all the time, I am self-shining, existent self-shining and self-conscious entity. So Atma tu satatam praptaha, even though I am there all the time, but api aprapyavat, because of ignorance, avidjaya, I do not know, I cannot recognize myself. So, if I ask somebody, do you know? Do you know yourself? He says, yes, I know. But what he says, I know I am as this. All his biodata he will tell. If you want to introduce himself, he says, I am so and so, so and so. And all that introduction is only inert things, which is this. This is an object and I am a subject. I cannot be an object because I make that introduction as I am this. That is essentially ahankara. And that introduction is only because I do not know my true nature. And not only I do not know my true nature, and many times I do not know that I do not know myself. I think I know myself since I introduce myself. At the same time, I do not know myself. So therefore, Atma, the self that I am, is indeed ever present and all the time there. There is nothing I can do. It's always there. But yet, it is not recognized. It is not realized, or recognition has to be done. And cognitive process has to occur because avidjaya, because the ignorance is covering. Ignorance is as though covering, just as the clouds are as though covering the sun. So ignorance is covering my understanding of who I am. And that ignorance has to be destroyed through proper means. So all other means is helpful only to know only other things. But for Atma Vidya, for ignorance about myself, I had to know knowledge of myself. So how do I get the knowledge of myself? This is Atmabodha. This is the knowledge of myself. And this Atmabodha text is essence of all the Upanishads. And therefore, through Shruti Pramana, through Upanishads only, I can gain the knowledge of myself. So, I should have the faith in the scriptures of what scripture says is indeed true. So, Atma tu satatam praptaha. So, it is actually all the time there. But, api apraptyavat avidjaya. Due to the ignorance, it is as though not recognized. Tannase, that tannase means that avidjaya nase, that the destruction of the ignorance, praptavat bhati, as though I am gaining it. What? The knowledge of self. When the ignorance is removed, I say, now I have realized. I have realized what? That I was there, I am there, and I am eternally present. I have all been there. So I am all the time Brahman. But at that time I recognize that I am Brahman. Swakantha bharanam yatha. Just as in my neck I have a necklace and abharanam yatha. By recognizing the missing abharanam or missing necklace on my neck in the same way. So to understand this analogy, there's one fellow has a necklace. Somebody gave him a necklace, or his wife gave him a necklace, and he was so proud of it and he wanted to show to his friend. So he walked 4 miles where his friend is, and he showed him that the necklace that his wife gave, a necklace, the friend also saw it and appreciated it, and after that they had a lot of chit chat and all that, and after some time he returned back home. And then once he was back, Then he discovered that he doesn't have a necklace in the neck. So what happened to necklace? Was it fall down somewhere? So he started desperately searching and thinking that it might have fallen on the way. So he went back all the way, running to his friend, looking for his necklace and see if it is there in the friend's house. So when he went to the friend, and the friend was surprised to him again, says, what's the matter? Says, I came here, remember, a necklace, but I don't see it. It must have been here, fallen down, or it may be here, that's why I came. So friend looked at it and he found out the necklace is still on the neck of his friend. So therefore, the necklace was never lost. But when he showed the necklace, because it's very thin and could not see, and once he saw, then he's happy that he found his necklace. He found his necklace, but he never lost the necklace to start with. Now the question is, was that 4 miles running necessary in order to discover that he has the necklace? So if we say it is necessary, then says it's not, because he had the necklace all the time. The 4 miles was running was not necessary. But if you say it's not necessary, you say it is necessary because he was searching all over and desperate, and he had to go to his friend to show him. So therefore, any answer you give becomes a problem, because that is the nature here. In the same way, says the correct answer is there. 4 miles of running is necessary to discover that the 4 miles of running is not necessary. That is why God, it is swakanta bharanam yatha, because it's there all the time. Yet, it has to be discovered by a process. Here in the case, a friend has to show that the necklace that is the seeker of the necklace is already a possessor of the necklace, and that has to be done through a means. And the same way, even though Atma tu satatam praptaha, even though the Atma, the self that I am, is always there, because it starts with I am and everything else, and all my transactions are I am transacting, I am doing, I am getting, I am sleeping, I am dreaming, I am deep sleeping, and all that is only I am is always there, and states keep changing, transactions keep changing, from the birth to death I am there all the time. So it is satatam praptaha, it's eternally present. But I am still searching for myself, because what I think is myself is not what it is, whereas the scripture tells me that you are not what you think you are, but you are Satchidananda Swarupam. And the obstruction is, I do not know that. There is an ignorance, and that ignorance has to be destroyed by proper means, and therefore all that 4 miles is running necessary to discover that 4 miles of running is not necessary. The same way, the Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyasanam and all the Karma Yoga, all are necessary until one discovers that everything is not necessary, because I am self-living. I am there all the time, eternally present. So I was, I am, and I will be. So I am Nitya Mukta Swarupaha. Even though when I think I am not, I was actually pure, liberated Aham Brahma all the time. But that has to be understood by a process of knowledge involving a pramana. So let's do 45. Sthano Purushavad Bhrantya, Sthano Purushavad Bhrantya, Kruta Brahmani Jivata, Kruta Brahmani Jivata, Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, Tasmin Drushte Nivartate, Tasmin Drushte Nivartate. Together. Sthano Purushavad Bhrantya, Kruta Brahmani Jivata, Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, Tasmin Drushte Nivartate. So So sthana is in the post. So where there is a post, and due to semi-darkness, because there is enough light, but not enough light to see clearly that there is a post there. But we see something standing there with the neck down and holding that light post, and one gets frightened, says it may be a ghost or it may be a person standing there. Purushavat is assumed. Bhranti. Bhranti means error in the perception. Because of delusion, I see that there is a person standing there where actually it is sthani. It is actually the post. So I am mistaking that what is there is a post when there is actually what is there is a person. Actually, what is there in the place is the post, and or I can purusha, or it can be a ghost, and there is a bhranti. So bhranti is essentially Brahma. Brahma is error in perception. Brahma means knowledge. Brahma means error, wrong knowledge, invalid knowledge. So what is valid knowledge and what is invalid knowledge? Valid knowledge occurs by a pramana. By a means of knowledge, by pramana, I get a valid knowledge. Valid knowledge is that knowledge which is not negated, which is not dismissed by subsequently. So therefore, when I say it is a rope, and I see it is a rope, and if I put a light also, it is still a rope, and it is all the time rope that I see, then it is a valid knowledge. It is not negated by other process. Whereas if I see it is a snake and somebody else there, it is not a snake, it is a rope, because the light is not sufficient for me to distinguish whether it is a rope or a snake, then I mistake it as a snake, and only the notion of snake remains. But for me, when I'm seeing it as a snake, it is a prama, it is a valid knowledge, because I know it is only a snake, not a rope. Unless someone else tell me that it is not a snake, but it is a rope. And we can argue, only way to prove whether it is a rope or a snake is I need another means to throw in our light on it to have the revealed what is the exact nature of the object. When I throw using a torchlight, then I see it is what? In fact, not a snake, but a rope. So what happened to the snake? Snake is bhranti. Bhranti means it is only an illusory projection. So here, this example is very important, because in the rope snake example, in the case of a rope and a snake, where I am projecting the snake, that example is given in the Bhashya, the Adhyasa Bhashya by Shankara, and there it's pointed out that the objection comes into picture. Says, in order for me to see a snake where the rope is, there has to be a snake somewhere. So I should have the knowledge of snake there, and that snake knowledge is now projecting here where the rope is. Now why am I projecting the snake here? Because there is some analogy. It's called the sadrishyam. Sadrishyam means there is similarity between the rope and the snake. And the attributes of the rope and the snake are somewhat similar to some extent. And I am only seeing only those attributes that cannot distinguish between the snake and the rope. It can be snake or it can be rope, because those are the attributes I see, because there is not enough light to give me all the attributes of the objects there. Therefore, because the means of knowledge is not complete, I am only getting a partial attributes from which mind makes a judgment. I think it is a snake because I have the samskara, that means I have the prior knowledge of how a snake looks like. Has to be a real snake? It need not be a real snake. it can be another false snake that I have seen before, or in the pictures or movies where I can projecting here. But here, Sthanau Purushavada, if it is a ghost on the post, so ghost, there is no real ghost, and there is only imaginary ghost, I can still project it on the sthani, on the pillar, on the post, and therefore the object need not be real. Another unreal object or another imaginary object can be projected and get mistaken as there is there when I project a ghost where the post is. So that is called Bhranti. That is called Bhranti only because when I come to know by close examination that it is not in fact a ghost, but in fact it is a post. So what happened to the ghost? The ghost knowledge is dismissed, but post knowledge is replaced by the ghost knowledge, and therefore ghost knowledge is replaced by the post knowledge. So real knowledge comes, that becomes a pramana. But even all this that I see in this world, even the pramana that I see, is only Bhranti from the point of absolute. Because what is there is only the absolute Brahman, and the rest is only relative, which is only Nama Rupa. And therefore, I am getting carried away with the names and forms without recognizing the essence of the whole world. So in that sense, it is a Bhranti. And here, that example is given to illustrate Brahmani Jivata. In the consciousness, in the all-pervade Brahman, Jivata. That is the Jiva, the notion of I am the Jiva. So who is making a notion of I am a Jiva? So when I say I am this, I am that, and I am so and so, all that is I am this, I am a subject, and this is object, and I am taking the object as a subject, and that confusion comes because I do not have a clear understanding of who I am. What is I am? Is I am existent consciousness, and according to the Vedanta, consciousness is Brahman. Prajnanam Brahma. So whenever the consciousness is, there has to be Brahman, or that has to be Brahman. So Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havihi, Brahma Agnyam, Brahma Nahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. So where the leader is Brahman, the Havis is Brahman, the whole instruments are Brahman, and the Karta is Brahman, the Karma is Brahman, and Karma Phala is also Brahman. So there is nothing other than Brahman, but I take individually as this is the ladle and this is a havish and so on and so forth, because of differentiating it only because of the notional understanding, because I do not know the actual truth behind it. So just as I do not know it is a rope, and that ignorance of my rope is projecting the snake there. So non-apprehension of the reality makes misapprehension, and the misapprehension is done by the mind, and therefore I project the plurality. But once I understand, once I have apprehended, or once I have the knowledge of the absolute truth, Brahmani, so Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, if once I understand what is my true nature, say Tattvam, it is absolute nature of myself, once I understood, Tasmin Drushti, having knowledge of that, Nivartate, all other things are destroyed. The ignorance get destroyed because it is Bhranti, it is incorrect knowledge. What is absolute knowledge dismisses the relative knowledge as makes it only a relative and not absolute. And therefore, here I take that example and says, now I take that whatever I see is only Bhranti, means it's only a projection, and it doesn't dismiss, as in the case of a snake rope example. In the case of snake rope example, when I see it is a snake, and when I think it is a snake, and once I put a light on it and I discover it is a rope, and when I discover the rope, there will never be a snake again because I know it is a rope. So knowledge of the rope, knowledge of the absolute truth, what is there, completely dismiss the ignorance of snake. But that ignorance of the snake is, once it is removed, but snake is also gone because the snake is subjective projection. It is in my mind, therefore my mind is relieved of that. So I have the knowledge in my mind, it is only a rope, and therefore there will never be a snake. And therefore that subjective projections are eliminated by the knowledge of what the object is. In the case of the other examples, like for example mirage water, when I say there is a water there, but what is there is only a sand and a reflection of the light on the sand. And once I understood that there is no water and what's only a reflection, it's in fact is a dry sand, there is no water, sand is not wet even. And once I understood, then even though I have understood that there is no water, I can still see mirage water, but now I know that it's only Bhranti. The absolute truth is, indeed, it is dry sand there. It's only a reflection. And the mirage water is an objective projection, whereas the snake is a subjective projection. So this adhyasa, a superimposition, has to be understood, because a lot of criticism is there, thinking that once I become a jnani, then I don't see the world anymore, and that should be the case. In which case, there will not be any jnani left over for me to teach or for us to learn also, because once a jnani has realized, he doesn't see the world, and there is no teacher and they taught. And this is one of the criticisms of Advaita by the Dvaita and Visishta Advaita. But the fact of the matter is, there are two types of adhyasa. One is the subjective, another is the objective. The subjective, the adhyasa means the error of superimposition. The subjective adhyasa, like a snake projecting on the rope, goes away once the knowledge takes place. That gets eliminated. Whereas for the point of objective projections, the adhyasa is, even after the knowledge takes place, the projection can continue, but I have no more notion that what I see is real. Just as I understood there is no really mirage water, then even though I see mirage water, I already understood there is no water there. So that is the objective adhyasa. So same way, the whole world becomes objective adhyasa. The rope is an objective adhyasa. Same way, the whole world of plurality is objective. So even though I know that I am all-pervading absolute consciousness and the substratum for the whole universe itself, yet I can still see the plurality, because there is a mind, body, mind and intellect still there available. So the plurality is still there. The vision of plurality will go on, since it's an objective projection. And that does not mean a knowledgeable person sees the plurality, but he has no more notion that plurality is reality. That as ignorance that it is real is dismissed. Whereas for a Jivanmukta, the subjective projections are gone. Just as the snake is gone permanently, in the same way, his notion that I am this, I am this, I am this, and by the notions and also that notion generated problems, all the problems will go away. He does not have any problems with related to at the body level, mind level, or the intellect level. And he sees the world of plurality, and he has no more notion that plurality is reality. Okay, let's do 46. Tattvaswarupanubhavat utpannam jnanamanjasa aham ameti cha jnanam bhadate digbrahmadivat together. Tattva swarupanubhavat utpannam jnanamanjasa aham mameti cha jnanam badhate digbrahmadhivat. So tattva swarupa anubhavat. So once tattva swarupam means that once I have understood the nature of the reality, anubhavat means is once I have experience of my true nature or the absolute nature of the truth or this tattvam, the nature of the truth, once I understood, so here anubhavam is used as an experience, but in Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta, Anubhavam means actually the knowledge of my true nature. Once I understood that, because experience, as we discussed before, any experience is only part of the triad. Experiencer, experienced and experiencing. So it is not an experience as in any other experience, but it is an understanding which I call it experience. So Tattva Swarup Anubhavat, by clear understanding of my true nature, Utpannam Jnanamanjasa, that knowledge that rises spontaneously, immediately. It's called, there is no medium. Medium is the indirect means of knowledge. So for example, say pratyaksham is direct perception. I see a watch, it's immediate. As soon as I open my eyes, and if there is a watch, and my eyes are functioning, and the mind is there, I see immediately that there is a watch there. I see as soon as I open my eyes, I see the world around me. That is direct and immediate. Whereas Anumana and other means of knowledge are not immediate knowledge, they are indirect knowledge. They are medium involved. That means I have to think, and what is there? I see smoke there and a distant hill, and say there is a fire there. So how did I come? I am not seeing the fire, I am only seeing the snake. Now I had to contemplate that the fire and the smoke have what you call avinava sambandha, the vyapti jnanam, a concomitant relation between the hetu, the cause that I am seeing, the smoke, and sadhyam, the deduction that I see, there is a fire there. There is relation between the smoke and the fire has been established in the past through a drishtanta. Like whenever there is a fire, I see, whenever there is a smoke, I see a fire. So therefore, wherever there is a smoke, there has to be fire. This is called vyapti jnanam, a concomitant relation that has to be available for me to deduce that when I see a smoke in a distant hill, that there is a fire there. So this is a meditative process, an inferential process that involves a prior knowledge and utilization of that in order for me to deduce. So all scientific investigations involve this kind of anumana, where I see some data or I perform an experiment in a controlled experiment, I get a result. So that is the example that I see, just like the smoke. So when I see it, then I had to deduce what is the cause for it, which I don't see directly. And therefore, the cause has to be deduced by either a deductive reasoning or an inductive reasoning. And that's what is called anumana. So for that, there is a medium is required, a contemplation is required, a memory and analysis is required in order to arrive at the truth behind. Whereas this is direct and immediate. I don't have to sit and contemplate, I am there, or aham brahmasmi. It's not a meditation, it's not something to make it self-revealing. It is because once the ignorance is removed, it says utpannam jnanamanjasa. Anjasa means immediately or instantly the knowledge rises once the ignorance is removed. Aham mameti cha ajnanam. And what is that ajnanam? Badhati. So this gets eliminated. What happens now in the process? Aham is ahankara, I am this. Mama is this is mine. Cha ajnanam, ajnana janitam. This is born out of ajnanam, ignorance. It is badhate. It gets eliminated, just like dig brahmadivatu. Just as the notion that dig is the directions. So when I am lost directions and say where is east, what is south, what is north, and so on, if I am all confused, that once I look at it, the sunrise, then I know that is the east, because I know that sunrise is in the east, from which I can deduce all other directions. So once the knowledge rises, once the sun rises in the east, then I know it is the east. So all directions are all revealed. In the same way, once the knowledge arises in my mind, then I have understood what is my nature. That is Tattva Swarupam. And Aham Mama, the Ahankara and the Mamakara. I am this notion, and this is mine, this is my notion, which are generated due to Ajnanam, which is generated due to the ignorance, gets badate, gets destroyed. So with this, we will stop here and we will do Purnamada Purnamidam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We are in 46.